Hi, Judy Materano, 2023 President-elect for NVSHP.
This is Ragini Bhakta, the Treasurer for NVSHP. Welcome to another episode of Better Left NSAID.
Once again, welcome to episode number 4, titled Hindsight is Invaluable.
Have you ever wanted to go back in time and do it all over again? Or did you want to go back and do it different maybe? What if someone walking the same path as you could tell you what to watch out for? I think I'd love that. Since classes have started for pharmacy school in Nevada, NVSHP wants to engage our future pharmacists and drop some knowledge pearls to help them succeed.
Joining us today on Zoom are several guests who are willing to share what they've learned. I think it's such a cool thing about pharmacy school here in Nevada that students are willing to help each other out. I hope that attitude also extends beyond graduation to when we are each other's colleagues.
Definitely. Our first guests joining us today on Zoom are P2 students who will introduce themselves. They're going to help us take a trip down memory lane and share some insight into P1 year, which they just completed.
All right, guys. So we're going to start with the very first question. If you could, Harshita, could you introduce yourself, what year you are in pharmacy school, and a little more about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Harshita Sharma. I am currently a P2 year student. I am from Vegas. I went to high school here, middle school, elementary, and then I actually went to UNR for my undergrad. In my undergrad, I actually thought I really wanted to do law, which kind of like was my passion initially, but then I always had a love for science as well, and it led me to pharmacy school.
Great. And are you in any organizations, or are you doing an internship? Anything else that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I am a part of Student Alliance, and within Student Alliance, I have a intern position with Nevada Pharmacy Alliance. So kind of the whole regulations and law of our professional careers that kind of comes in. And so I'm able to pursue that as well. I'm also part of the organization known as Industry Pharmacist Organization, just because I'm very interested in the industry field and I hope to pursue that. Not only that, but I am also part of Kappa Psi, which is a fraternity on campus.
Now, Anne, tell us a little bit about yourself and if you are in any clubs or hold an office and if you have an internship.
My name is Anne Pham, and I, like Harshita, just recently finished the first year of my pharmacy school at Roseman University College of Pharmacy. I finished my prerequisite at UNLV and CSN before coming to Roseman. Right now, I am on the board member of Student Alliance, serving as the policy coordinator for the organization while also being the student representative for NVSHP. I am also a member of SCCP, which is the student chapter of the American College of Clinical Pharmacy, as I have a really high interest in pursuing clinical pharmacy after graduation. And I am also a member of one of the professional pharmacy fraternity at our campus, Phi Delta Chi.
Awesome. Sounds like you're pretty busy.
Definitely.
As I'm currently in this.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Yes.
So looking back, maybe a little over a year ago, you may have been asked the same question when you were applying to pharmacy school. But Anne, can you tell us a little bit about why you chose pharmacy as a career?
I've always really enjoyed the science aspect of everything, especially things that deals with the medicines or like the human body. And I discovered pharmacy and I thought that drugs are so cool on how they affect the human body, how we can give it to patients to treat a disease state. That's always have fascinated me, and I realized that. So I went down to pharmacy.
That's awesome. How about you, Harshita?
For me, I always had a really big passion for science as well. I really liked the psychology aspect. I've never been fond of blood, so I knew it was something I wanted to avoid, but I still wanted to pursue something where I knew I was helping people. And I felt like I was having the most, like, the biggest impact mostly through healthcare. And I found that within pharmacy, I was able to pursue that as well as, not necessarily get exposed to all the blood and gore.
For sure.
Definitely.
All right, you guys. So tell me, you just finished your first year, Harshita. Tell me, what was your biggest challenge during your first year of pharmacy school?
Yeah, I think one of the most challenging things that I experienced was maybe time management. At Roseman, our course tends to be very fast paced, and you really have to, stay on top of your work and any other extracurriculars that you may have, even like a job. So learning that and making sure you're staying on top of it and not feeling overwhelmed and learning the material as you should, but also understanding it, it was definitely the biggest challenge. So finding that happy medium was something I definitely had to learn over time.
And Anne, what was your biggest challenge during your first year of pharmacy school?
I would say the same as Harshita. It is time management in pharmacy school. As Roman is an accelerated 3-year doctorate programs, we have a lot of activities that we have to take care of within a short period of time. It was quite difficult to find the balance between work, social life, and school, while also making sure that I understand the material and taking care of my health. It was something that I learned to overcome and hopefully still be able to do well in P2 year.
I would say that skill will serve you into being a pharmacist as well.
Yes,
So
for
it's
sure.
a good skill to learn. And I'll start this question with you. Is there anything you wished you would have known or anything you wished you would have done earlier as a P1?
As of P1, I wish that I would reach out to faculties for help earlier when I need it, because I came to pharmacy school a little bit shy and intimidated by the new environment of it being a graduate school. I was really scared of approaching a faculty and asking for help when I struggle with a material. However, as the year progressed and I become close with the faculty, I realized that all of them are really here to help us. And I hope that if I had to go back, I would hope that I would reach out to them earlier to get the help.
Awesome. How about you, Harshita?
For me, I think one thing that I would think to have maybe worked more consistently is or like learned throughout my time in P1 is you definitely shouldn't take more on than you are capable of, especially trying to learn the course and just getting used to how the curriculum is set up. So I think it's really important to see how much you're able to take it by day, and then don't commit to too much. But not only that, staying on top of like what activities you do outside of school. Just so, when you're working on your CV throughout the year, you don't forget the important things.
Definitely.
Yeah, great answer.
Yeah. When you think back, Harshita, to P1 year, is there anything you wish, you wouldn't have done?
I guess would be just procrastination. Yeah, like just really getting on that calendar from day one, because
Yeah.
you're adjusting, and in the beginning you think, okay, I think I got this. I think I can manage this, and it doesn't seem so bad right now. But I think just really staying on top of that time management, like, and not thinking, oh, I got all the time in the world,
Yeah.
was kind of something that you really have to be like on top of and not to forget.
Yeah. It definitely sneaks up on you. How about you, Anne? Anything you wished you wouldn't have done last year?
I actually piggybacked on Harshita's answers is to not procrastinate and wait until the last minute to get assignment and studying done, because it did cause me a lot of stress and anxiety, thinking that I would not have enough time because I waited until the week before to start studying. And I would hope that I start earlier during the assessment day.
Okay. Awesome.
All right, so as you start this year, your P2 year, what are you looking forward to, Anne?
I am looking forward to build more personal connections with my fellow classmates, faculty, and also learning the clinical aspect of pharmacy. As I stated earlier, I'm really interested in clinical pharmacy, and I'm so excited to start learning how we dose patients, what kind of treatment therapy we should try, and how different aspects of their life can affect their treatment. And I'm really excited to start that.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
We feel a little passion come out for sure.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
How about you, Harshita?
Just to go off of what Anne said, definitely the clinical aspect to definitely like grow on that knowledge that we've gained and really connect those dots. I mean, I feel like we're already starting to do that with the material we've just learned. And when it starts clicking, it's such a great feeling because you're like, I get it. I'm becoming what I wanted to be. And so that's, a great feeling. But not only that, I'm really looking forward to all the positions we've taken on and being able to improve on those, make our organization and school better. So for me, having that aspect and being able to mix those two and improve on them is something I'm really looking forward to.
Awesome. This kind of applies to both of you, but thinking about coming to pharmacy school and completing your first year, Harshita, would you do it all over again?
I would, yes.
Okay. How about you, Anne?
I definitely would as well.
Okay, love that. Well, those are all of the questions that we have for you. So, wanted to really thank you for your time today. These two ladies have an exam in a couple days, but they still took some time
You guys, thank
to
you
talk
so much.
to us. So, talk about dedication. Hopefully, we're not one of the things that you wanted to say no to, but felt like you couldn't.
Of course not.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome.
Definitely. Yeah. So, our guests today joining us on Zoom are current P3 students. They'll be reflecting on their time in the classroom to hopefully help the underclass folks at Roseman. Welcome to all of our guests today.
All right, guys. So let's start by introducing yourself. So let's start with Edward. Edward, I'd like for you to introduce yourself, current year in pharmacy school, and feel free to include anything as that you're a current officer, what organizations you're involved with, and anything pharmacy related.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Edward Ramirez, and I am a current P3 student on my cardiology rotation right now. I am in the admissions committee representative for Roseman University, and I'm also a paid intern at Smith's Pharmacy.
Great. So we're going to go to Joseph. Would you do the same for us? Introduce yourself and give us some details, please.
Yeah, my name is Joseph Alanity, also a third-year pharmacy student in Roseman, and I currently work for Walmart as a paid intern.
And Claudia, would you also give us some more details about yourself?
Hi, my name is Claudia Pham, and I'm a P3 student. I'm a pharmacy intern at Smith, and I'm currently on my rotation with Dr. Bokta for cardiology at St. Rose.
Awesome. Great. And Maria, let's go ahead and give your current year in pharmacy school and some details, please.
Hi, yes, my name is Maria. I'm currently a P3 student. I'm in currently my infectious disease rotation at St. Rose, and I am also a paid intern at Smith's Pharmacy.
Great.
Cool. Got some representation from the community pharmacies.
For
Love
sure,
that.
For sure.
My question would be, I'll start with kind of in the middle with Claudia, and then we'll ask each of you this question. Claudia, why did you choose pharmacy as a career?
So for me personally, so my mom, she take a lot of medication, and back then I didn't know much about medication, so I have to do my own research. And when I got closer to my graduation in undergrad, my sister happened to be in pharmacy school by that time, and so I asked her like question about the career, and I think it's a good career to pursue, and so that's why I decided to go for pharmacy.
Awesome. Lucky for us. Joseph, what about you?
Yeah, so what kind of reeled me into the field of pharmacy would have to be how diverse it is as a field in general. I remember my college roommate at the time was pursuing pharmacy, and then after graduation, he ended up becoming an emergency department pharmacist. And I met people while I was doing research in school that was in the middle of applying for pharmacy school. And then sometimes later, my sister introduced me to a friend of hers that ended up being a community pharmacist. So I met like three different type of pharmacists that all do different things, even before I did any research with the field. So I
Wow.
thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's like the universe telling you, go to pharmacy school.
Three different areas, huh?
Yeah. What about you, Maria?
So for me, it's a little bit more similar to kind of what Claudia was saying. Having family who, is on medication, and I think it happens a lot the way that it happened with them, where sometimes you walk out of the doctor's office and sometimes they don't, remember everything that was said about medication, or they forget which one or which one's for what, and what to look out for. And I think that's where pharmacists really play a key role in being able to educate the patient on medications, how to properly take it, what they're taking it for, things to look out for. So I really admired that part of the field, and where they play an important role in educating patients.
Cool. And Edward, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to reiterate some things that Joseph mentioned, but I decided to choose pharmacy because of the multitude of paths that are available. My path to pharmacy was a bit unorthodox in that I was coming from a pre-dental background, so I didn't really have any idea of what pharmacy actually was. So, and it wasn't until one of the faculty from Roseman introduced me to all the different paths that pharmacy had, where I realized that I could probably make pharmacy my own and find something that I know that I would enjoy.
I mean, someday you might have a podcast.
You never know.
Okay, Judy, you want to take it away?
Sure. Let's go ahead and start with you, Edward. So this is a question that probably everybody asks you. What was your biggest challenge during your P2 year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say personally, the biggest challenge that I faced during P2 year was probably keeping on top of studies while also trying to balance some of the duties I had with on-campus clubs. There were definitely times where it felt overwhelming, especially being in positions, leadership positions within some of these organizations. So trying to find that balance between responsibilities was something that I personally found difficult, but eventually got through it in the end.
Awesome. And what about you, Joseph?
In terms of managing P2 year, it would be similar to what Edward just said. I think my second year of pharmacy school, there's a lot more responsibilities. P1 year, it was good enough to be part of a club and be part of a meeting. There's a lot more expectations with being a member as a P2. And also, I started working my second year in pharmacy school, so it's definitely an adjustment, trying to balance out how to study and study properly versus finding the time to find time for work.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And Claudia, what was your biggest challenge?
I totally agree with what Joseph and Edward just went over. My biggest challenge during P2 year would be time management. Like on top of school, we have the extracurricular, like we have to go volunteer at health fair, leadership role, and I pay internet Smith, and also I need to find time for myself too. So everything adding up to that.
And Maria, what was your biggest challenge during P2 year?
It's actually very similar to what they were repeating. It's just, because there's so many things that are going on, especially P2 year, and also having to prepare for, what you want to do when you graduate or by the time you get to P3 year, and then also having to manage your time to study while trying to make time for yourself and your family, and it, just being more managing your time a little bit better. So it's quite an adjustment, but eventually you get through it.
Great. Well, thank you for those answers.
Yeah. It's like hitting the wall, and you don't really know how to get through the wall until you just get through the wall, which is P2 year at Roseman. Okay. I'll start with Joseph on this one. Joseph, is there anything you wished you would have known or done earlier last year as a P2?
Yeah, there were plenty actually, but I'll mention one. Probably the way I take notes in class, I would definitely change that. I started taking notes with the traditional pen and paper. And as much as I tried to make it organized and neat and with color coded and everything, it was not efficient enough in terms when you compare it to something that's typed out. And then carrying it forward, you can't really modify those written notes without sacrificing legibility in that case. And then you can't modify, you can't add pictures, and definitely you can't control F it. As much as it's organized, it takes a while to find the key terms that you're looking for. So that really kind of hindered me in some of the timed assessments where we have access to these notes. So if I were to go back, I would definitely done everything typed out. I could control F everything. I could find it, organize it a lot better.
Okay, great answer. Yeah, Judy, you would be, I only know this because of being in the classroom, but now like students can like take a picture of something and it automatically goes into their iPad and they can write on it. It's so cool what
Nice.
technology offers. So I'm glad it was able to help you, Joseph. Edward, do you have anything you want to add for what you wished you would have known or done earlier as a P2?
Yeah, so one thing I definitely wish I did was probably start project and assignments a little bit earlier, especially during P2 year. I mentioned before about having some trouble kind of balancing responsibilities between academics and clubs. And one of those reasons why may or may not be to some degree of procrastination. So something I really wish I did last year was making sure that I did stay on top of those assignments and studying. And that's something I think I've been gradually working on and improving.
Okay. Is there, for the current P2s who may be listening to this episode, is there any particular thing that you wished you would have stayed up on? Or can you reference anything in particular? Start working on ahead of time?
Yeah, great question. I would say definitely studying for didactic courses, starting that material, as soon as the first day of the block starts. That's probably one of the best things. Sometimes I would give it a day or two, and I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It's just the first couple days of the block. And then I realized 3 days in, it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So that would probably be my biggest advice to any P2s that are listening.
Okay, cool. Maria, what about you?
I think for me, it would have been working in a retail pharmacy starting P2 year. So I didn't really have that much experience before starting pharmacy school in a pharmacy setting. And I think that it kind of would have helped me a little bit more in terms of being able to learn it in the classroom and then going to a pharmacy and applying that knowledge. And I think it really helps to just keep practicing that in and out of the classroom. And so I think that would have helped me if I would have started a little bit earlier.
Got it. And then Claudia?
Yeah, for me, one thing that I wish I would have done earlier last year was to be more organized with my notes, similar to what Joseph said. So I have an iPad where I download my notes and I do organize them on there, but in terms of like paper notes, I don't like organize them. So for like student who gonna go into pharmacy soon to be 1 year, I highly recommend to invest in like binder or something and to organize your note by blocks or like by subject. So that would be very helpful.
Oh, I can relate to those 3-ring binders.
Well, just so you know, way back 30 years ago when I was in pharmacy school, we didn't have an iPad, but I could see how an iPad would make it so much easier for notes because it is engulfing a little bit when didactics are taking place, and it's the ability to just listen is a key thing. So that's awesome, though.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked. I have one more question before we go on. Claudia, I'll start with you. I'll kind of go reverse order. Is there anything you wished you wouldn't have done as a P2?
Something that I wish I would have done in P2 was procrastinating. Yeah, I was that I could have like stay on top of my like studying for every block. 'Cause we on a block system, so we have an exam every 2 weeks, so it happened very fast. Yeah, and I was like, I could have like keep up with studying every single day.
It's hard when there's no pressure of a test, so I can relate. Maria, do you have a different answer or something else?
Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have done is probably spend as much money as I did P2 here. Being able to like budget more
Oh,
should have definitely been a little bit more in the plan. Some things that you don't think about, and it's not till now that I'm in like my P3 year that I'm like, oh my gosh, I've accumulated, so much and spent this much, and maybe if I wouldn't have, spent on these certain things that maybe were not a necessity, it definitely would have saved me a lot more in the long run. So I think that's something I wish I would have done differently.
that's great advice.
Makes sense.
How about, I don't remember who's next, but how about you, Joseph?
Yeah, for P2 year, I wish that I did my toes a little bit more in different organizations or clubs. I was involved in primarily 2 clubs, but I wish I took the chance to kind of see what the other organizations could offer. Maybe I could have met new friends or, share their resources or get to know their connections. It could have been a benefit to me.
That's great. How about you, Edward?
Yeah, so I'm going to echo a lot of what Maria mentioned. I think one of the biggest things is probably saving on costs. So, especially when you have to study for exams and things get kind of hectic, it's really easy to gravitate towards things that are, easy. So, like going to get fast food or something like that. That's probably one of the biggest things that I wish I kind of changed last year. Not spending so much money on getting food to go or whatever, and instead probably finding time on the weekend to see if I could meal prep and things like that.
That's great advice.
And probably a little bit healthier too. So fast food isn't always your best choice, but I can relate. I'm sure you as well when you're in
Yes.
pharmacy school. Sometimes it's the path of least resistance and it's easier to pick up food. So,
Definitely.
well, good.
Cool.
All right, guys. So now you're starting your last year. So P3. Tell me, what are you looking forward to, Edward? Like you're on the home stretch. Tell me what it feels like and like what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, great question. So I think things that I am looking forward to is pretty much utilizing this year to get a better sense of pharmacy in practice in like a wide variety of different settings. I feel like going through P1 and P2 year, we don't see a lot of like the ambulatory care side or the adult acute care side. So this year is kind of the time where I really want to see what pharmacy in practice in those settings are going to be like. And I feel that you can only learn so much in the classroom setting. So being able to go through these rotations would allow for that more real world applications of those topics that we covered in those didactic courses.
Awesome. And what about you, Joseph?
I'm looking forward to finding that specific area in pharmacy that really appeals to me, and I could be content like dedicating the rest of my career to. Like I've said, the diversity in the field is what interests me in the first place, and I think this year would be dedicated in finding exactly the path I want to take.
All right. And Maria, what would you say?
Similar to what Edward said, I think having this P3 year where, we're not in the classroom, we're more out in the field. And so having a wide variety of different settings in pharmacy, whether that's retail, clinic, in a hospital, and just being able to get a taste a little bit of everything. I mean, there's obviously so much more out there than, they're exposed to, but also being in different healthcare teams and connecting with the different people and how, even though we're all in pharmacy, like how different each setting could it be and how, in the way that they work, their workflow, and just being able to see them from all different perspectives. For sure.
Awesome. And Claudia, what would you say you're looking forward to this last year?
My answer is very similar to Edward's and Maria's. I'm looking forward to all the learning experience that I'll get during my P3 year from like working with different preceptor in different setting. Because during P1 and P2, we were only exposed to institutional and community. So this year we get to do acute care, AM care, like home infusion, selective cardiology, like everything. So I'm really looking forward to the learning experience.
And it's always nice not being in the classroom, I suppose.
Definitely. One final question for our P3 panel today. Would you do it all over again? And I'll start with Maria. Looking back at P1, P2 year, would you do it all over again?
I think so. I mean, because there's always going to be things that we like and don't like about the things that, when you reflect, right? So it's always going to be the good and bad. And I think despite that, I think it was still a good, 2-3 years. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but, that's always something that you can change later on. So I think I'm overall still pretty content with the way things went.
Okay, great. How about you, Joseph?
I would agree. I would do it all over again. I think that the bond I made in this school, the connections I made, the learning experience, I learned what it takes to be a pharmacist. I'm not there yet, but I definitely would really want to be a pharmacist. And if I have to redo it again, I would, because that is my end goal.
Okay. Claudia?
Yeah, I would totally agree with Joseph and Maria. I would do it all over again. Like from the people that I met, like the preceptor, the pharmacist, the doctor, the friends that I made from pharmacy school. So yeah.
And Edward?
Yeah, I would just reiterate all that. I would have to say I'd probably do it again too, just because all the connections you make during pharmacy school are one of a kind and they're the most unique things ever. And then also the unique experiences you get from pharmacy school. Personally, like going to different conferences like APHA annual or ASHP mid-year, and then meeting all the people there and seeing people who are just very passionate about pharmacy and they have very similar goals in mind. I think that's something that's really worth it. And that's something that I've really appreciated on my journey through pharmacy school.
Awesome. All your answers were so insightful. Thank you for those.
Very much.
That was our last question for our P3 panel. So thank you all for your time and for joining us on Better Left Unsaid.
Yes, and sharing all of your experiences. We appreciate it. Have a great day. All right, so let's start with you, Curtis. Introduce yourself, where you are right now, and a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so my name's Curtis. I'm currently a PGY1 resident at Dignity Health St. Rose here in Las Vegas. I graduated from Roseman here in town. Currently, I'm on my antimicrobial stewardship rotation, so I've been doing a lot of reviewing patient charts, looking at antibiotics, obviously, and making sure they're appropriate, seeing if there's opportunities for us to de-escalate, discontinue, or on the other hand, I guess, escalate when appropriate too.
Great. And Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Jordan. I'm also a PGY1 resident at Dignity Health St. Rose Dominican with Curtis. We're both actually on the same rotation right now, so we kind of tag team the antimicrobial stewardship side of things. And I finished my pharmacy school at University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that's where I did my pharmacy school education.
Awesome. And Ivana, what about you?
Hi, I'm Ivana. I'm also a PGY1 resident at St. Rose. I graduated from Roseman University here in town, and I'm currently on my cardiology rotation with Regini. And I basically look at the patients on the cardiac unit. Most of them are post some type of minor surgery, so they're usually there for 24 to 48 hours and they're gone. Lots of presentations, and then my next rotation is the one that Curtis and Jordan are on, the antimicrobial stewardship one. So, yeah.
Oh, great. Well, welcome, you guys. I know the three of you are at St. Rose, and it's a fantastic program. So I'm proud to have you guys here talking with us today.
Definitely. I'll start with Jordan, maybe. So you might have to think back a little bit for this question, but why did you choose pharmacy as a career?
Okay, so good question. I used to volunteer at this cancer center in New Mexico near my house, and I remember one of the days I was volunteering, I saw this gentleman like garbed up head to toe, and I was like, man, what is he doing? And so I had asked about it, and they're like, oh, that's like our pharmacy, that's our inpatient pharmacy. They're compounding the chemo, and as I know now, like reviewing if like a tech does it. So I looked more into it after that day, and I was like, I think that's something that I'd be interested in. And kind of full circle, I got to work as an intern, like compounding, and it was like the time of my life. So I really enjoyed like the compounding aspect of pharmacy. That was what initially attracted me to it. So
That's awesome. How about you, Ivana?
Well, my story's a little bit different. I didn't have any form of experience like that. Mine was more so I knew I wanted to do something in the medical field. No one in my family's in the medical field. They're all business minded. So I took it upon myself. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and this was back in college, but I was good at OChem and I was good at biochem as well. And when I talked to my OChem professor, he sort of brought it up. He's like, oh, maybe you should try pharmacy. You're good at both those subjects. It might be something you're interested in. And so I just ended up taking a gap year between pharmacy school and undergrad, and I was a tech. And I realized that's something I kind of gravitated towards, and I kept liking it more and more every single day, and it's brought me to here. So that's my story.
That's awesome. How about you, Curtis?
Mine's kind of, I guess, similar to Ivana's, although I did have family in like the medical field, so I was always kind of inspired by them and by the kind of impact they had on people. So I knew I wanted to go into medicine. I wasn't sure, I guess, what specific field. I was taking classes during my undergrad. I realized I really liked like the physiology behind things. I actually took a pharmacology class that I really enjoyed. So that's what kind of sparked my interest. I got a job as a pharmacy tech as well and really enjoyed that. So I guess all that kind of added up, and then I decided to apply for school.
Cool.
Awesome. Great. So as you continue to think back to last year, tell me, what was your biggest challenge during your last year before you went into residency program? So Curtis, let's start with you since you're already answering some questions here.
My biggest challenge last year?
Mm-hmm.
I guess a big challenge throughout pharmacy school for me was kind of transitioning into studying more with groups, or like picking the brain of other people to get information. Throughout undergrad, I would study individually a lot and alone, and realized in pharmacy school I needed to kind of reach out to others and gain access to information in that way. So that was kind of a barrier I overcome. But I guess I'm still working to overcome, still utilizing. So I'd say that's one of the challenges I had to work with.
And second part of that question would be, what advice would you give to someone applying for a residency program this year? So you've been through it, you applied, interviewed. What advice would you give to?
Yeah. So on those same lines, like, don't be afraid to reach out for help. People are always willing to, look over your applications, look over your letters of intent, that sort of stuff. So don't be afraid to reach out to help. And then my second answer to that would be proactive. So during your student rotations, really take advantage of the experiences you're given. Like if your preceptor says, hey, do you want to go on rounds, make these interventions? I would definitely take advantage of it. So all those experiences are things you can not only talk about during residency interviews, but also utilize in your everyday careers, gaining that information and that knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because I think you can feel quite alone in your last year getting ready to interview and not know what you're doing. So it's nice to hear you say that that's important to you. So it's Great answer. And what about you, Jordan? What would you say was your biggest challenge during your last year? And then what advice would you give to someone applying for residency program?
I would say that a challenge that I overcame was like making that switch of it's not a test anymore and it's a patient. It's like an actual person versus like in school, I was like, oh, this is a patient case, but it could be like a fake patient. You almost think about it that way. And I just want to get a good grade. Versus now it's like an actual person and like things that you're going to recommend is going to be impactful to a life. So just like the impact that your recommendations have, like even as a student, I had to make that switch. It's like it's not just an exam; it's like an actual person now. And I think some advice I would give for P3s, P4s applying for residency is to apply to places that you are passionate about and that you would love to spend a year at that program versus just maybe applying to get any residency. So I think that that's an approach that's some advice that I received as I was applying was like, make sure that you really are passionate and you would like to attend that program and you're not just maybe applying for the wrong reasons, just to get one in general.
Great. That's awesome. And Ivana, what about you? What was your challenge for your P3 year and what advice would you give applying for residency program?
So I definitely agree with the things that were said. Those were very accurate for me as well. I guess one of the biggest things for me, especially P3 year, was balancing everything. I feel like there was a lot with like studying for the NAPLIX and then rotations and then also focusing on applying for residency. So it was a lot to juggle. And at moments it felt like, oh my gosh, I'm falling behind on this area and I have to focus more on this area. So at the end of the day, it's like, what are your priorities? You have to prioritize what's important. And especially when it came around time for like applications and all that, I was sort of zoned in on residency. Okay, I need to focus all my attention on getting these applications right. What advice I would give is to prepare early. It's not impossible. If you start early, it doesn't feel that bad. Like, know who you want to do your letters of rec. Know who, like, get your CV ready. You can start preparing for that as whenever. Letters of intent, have all those things squared away so it's not such of a stressor by December when deadlines are. So yeah, just start to prepare early. And yeah, that's what I would say are my main points.
Yeah, so common theme, don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
Right?
I could take that advice too.
Yeah, I think you'll learn it's not just pharmacy school. It's sometimes life. You just procrastinate. But,
It does.
Being a pharmacist does make you a little bit better at not procrastinating. So that's awesome.
Okay. Thinking back, Ivana, since you answered the last question, is there anything you wished you would have known or done earlier as a APPE student?
As an APP student, I feel like, I wish I would have, I guess, had more time to review everything before that certain rotation. Like, let's say you're doing Peds ICU or your whichever rotation you're doing. I wish I would have taken a few days before that to sort of brush up on some of the main things that I would expect on those rotations. I think that would have been very helpful.
Great. How about you, Jordan?
I would say that something that I wish I'd learned earlier is how kind of just starting to shape your own practice and like how you're working up patients and taking advice from like other people on how they do it, but like forming it to how it best works in your mind and how it best works for you. I think the different rotations I went on, I changed that, how I was working up the patients, because, you know, you're looking at different aspects of the patient and different rotations. So I think that that's something that I carried with me throughout the remainder of the year once I kind of started to put that together. But it is always good to take that input as well, and just kind of form it and shape it to how it works best for you and how you're going to best work up the patient and get that good information that you need.
Yeah. Awesome. How about you, Curtis?
I really agree with Jordan. I think learning kind of your own workflow or how you like to work up patients earlier on is a really beneficial thing. I had kind of a spreadsheet that I would use that a pharmacist showed me later on, probably like my second to last rotation. And if I would have had something similar to that earlier on that I could have tailored to my own liking, it would have been super beneficial going forward. And then a second part of that, kind of going on the residency application thing as well, is something I wish I would have done earlier, is just not procrastinate that stuff. So like working on letters of intent, not waiting till, Christmas break to get them all done.
I can relate, but sometimes you do your best writing under pressure, so it's
That's-
like, oh.
It's a very good point.
I have one other question. I can start with you, Curtis. Is there
Mhm.
anything you wished you wouldn't have done?
Yeah, I think so. It's a good question. So one thing, I don't know if I wished I wouldn't have done it, but I don't know if I would do it again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I did a few rotations out of state. I did a rotation in Washington State, and then I did a rotation in Utah as well. And they were great learning experiences. I got a lot out of them, I think. And it was good to see how different institutions in different areas of the country do things slightly differently. It was just expensive. So I don't know if I would do it again, but I don't regret it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Makes sense.
definitely. How about you, Ivana?
Looking back, I guess, at the whole applying and residency process, I would say don't apply to too many spots. Like, if you're unsure about some place and you know you're not probably going to rank them, don't apply, because once you start getting interviews, it's pretty like exhausting. Like, some of the interviews are 5-6 hours, and you want to make sure like the place you really want, your energy is focused on them, versus like, oh my God, I have 2 interviews today. I have to like prepare for that one as well. So I know people say like apply to like 10, 15, 20 spots. It's like, do the number that's best for you. Like, I didn't even apply to that many, and it still felt a lot once like the interviews started coming. So yeah,
That's great.
I would.
Very good point.
That's great. How about you, Jordan?
I would say I'm not really too sure about something I wish I wouldn't have done. I guess there were some rotations that I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want these rotations. But I'm grateful that I did actually have them. Just, I'd say be open-minded about the different rotations, because they can all teach you something, versus like, oh, I don't know if I want this type of rotation.
Yeah.
Because I think you can learn anything, different side of pharmacy and different practices that they have there. So they're all beneficial, I would say.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Great. And the last question. So as you start this year, what are you looking forward to, Jordan? Like, what's your biggest thing you're looking forward to? Don't say finishing. I'm just teasing.
I think that something that I'm really looking forward to is my research project. I haven't had much experience with research in undergrad or in pharmacy school. So that's something that's new to me. And I'm already kind of being challenged by it because it is new and different. But I think that that's something I'm excited to dive into and just get more experience with.
Awesome.
Cool.
And Curtis, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
I think what I'm looking forward to most during residency is just building like confidence and independence. It's been great already just on this first rotation, being able to, look at patients and come up with my own opinion, and being able to reach out to doctors without having to run it by somebody or have them double check me first. As long as I am confident, you want to know what you don't know. But it's been nice, being able to kind of do my work independently and talk to my preceptor when I have questions, but not all the time, I guess.
And Ivana, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
I guess going off of what Curtis said, like working independently, making your own decisions, I'm kind of looking forward to staffing. I feel like during staffing, I'll be able to actually feel like a pharmacist that's like doing all the tasks that a pharmacist does. So I want to get good at that. And I want to be able to like say, oh, yeah, I'm just going to cover this shift and be okay with it and not like worry about it. So, yeah, I guess staffing is what I'm looking forward to.
Well, it kind of allows you to take that individual practice that you have developed and put it into place because you do get to see so many different preceptors. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because it's your shift and your patients. And so that's a big responsibility, but it's also fun because you've now developed all those skills that you've been working so hard for. So, I
Right.
can see that that would be exciting. And, it is still exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
you can practice how you want and take care of the patients. So that's awesome.
Definitely.
And I lied. We do have one more question.
Yeah.
So sorry about that, guys.
Talking about staffing, I remember after I staffed, maybe the second or third time I got recognized in the cafeteria. Hey, aren't you the pharmacist? And I was like, yes. It was kind of a great day.
She's like, I am a
I
pharmacist.
am.
Wear it proudly.
So one final question from us. We can start with you, Ivana. Would you do it all over again, looking back at pharmacy school?
Yes, I don't see myself being in any other career, I guess. And the more days that pass with residency and the more I get into like hospital work and all of that, I'm like, I'm exactly where I need to be. Yes, it was super tough, but I feel like the toughest moments are probably behind me already. There are going to be tough ones during residency as well, but it was all worth it in the end. Like I'm so proud of where I'm at. So yeah, I would do it again.
Oh, that's awesome. How about you, Jordan?
I would definitely do it again. Just seeing like the impact pharmacy has and how it's evolving and just the bigger role that pharmacists have in patient care. Like I'm really excited to be a part of it and as a pharmacist now. So yes, definitely I would do it again.
Cool. And you, Curtis?
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't have much more to add than Jordan and Ivana said, but I would definitely do it again. No questions asked.
Ah, that's cool. Well, thank you so much to
Thanks,
our
guys.
residents panel for joining us for today's episode of Better Left Unsaid.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having
Thanks,
us.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.